Welcome to the Raising Confident Girls podcast, your guide to raising strong, confident daughters. I'm Melissa Jones, the founder of Girls Positivity Club and a teacher for over 20 years. In a world where girls often feel overwhelmed, anxious, and confused, this podcast is your go-to space. As caregivers, we navigate challenges together. I founded Girls Positivity Club to provide a place where you belong and get the tools to face today's hurdles. Consider this your regular check-in with a trusted friend, offering insights and practical tips for meaningful conversations. I'm here to help you feel confident on this journey of raising a generation of empowered girls. Let's dive in and raise those confident girls together. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Raising Confident Girls. I'm Melissa, and I'm so happy you're here today. We have such an important topic, and I think it's so relatable, especially if you are a woman listening. And it is all about body image and inner doubt and helping your daughter break the cycle. I think it's so relevant for so many women, and I experienced a lot of this myself all of growing up, and even as a woman, like I still have those moments. I think we all do, whether it's looking on social media or whether it's going to an event. And I'll kind of get into the nitty gritty of all of that. But before we get too deep into the episode, I wanted to thank you for sharing this podcast with other parents and caregivers of girls. It is the biggest compliment that you can give is to share this with someone that it will help, because that really is the ultimate goal, is to help give other parents and caregivers that guidebook, the ideas that they can put into their life right away with their daughters, with the girls in their life, to help them be more confident, feel good about who they are, and feel that sense of connection. So I really, really appreciate those of you who are doing that. And it is the way that we all help each other. It takes a village, as they say. So it's really important, if we think about body image, to also think about looks and beauty. And it doesn't mean that I am saying that it's the most important thing, but I think if we didn't talk about these kind of topics on the podcast, then it wouldn't really give the full picture of what girls are dealing with. And I think especially with, those moments where I heard a friend telling me this, and another mom actually reached out to me last night and left me a message about it. And it basically is that moment where your daughter is standing in front of the mirror and, she is tugging on her clothes, or she is picking at her body in some way, maybe squeezing her belly or her arms or something like that, or just staring at herself in the mirror. And you can tell it's not a positive experience for her. She's kind of picking herself apart. And it's really heartbreaking because my mom used to, walk in on me, and it just would break her heart. And she just always was like, honey, you're beautiful. And, it's a really vulnerable state to walk into, whether it's in her bedroom or in the bathroom. And it's really a good thing for us to be aware of, though, because I think it's really easy to think that your daughter doesn't think about looks or her body or anything like that. And especially as she gets older, it really becomes apparent, especially she is more aware of what other girls look like, or social media or TV. And unfortunately, it's never going to go away. And so I think this is especially true in middle school, where it can happen earlier, but I think that my whole intention in Girls Positivity Club is to teach the girls those skills and tools while they're growing up, so that they know what to do if they ever feel a certain way. And so I just remember when I was a girl, my mom walked in on me one time, and I was like beating on my hips. Like, I didn't know why my hips were getting bigger. And I was not like violently, but kind of like, I was just really frustrated that my hips were changing. And she was like, honey, what are you doing? I'm like, I hate my hips. I hate how I'm getting, like, I don't know what's happening in my body. And it's so confusing for girls, especially because they feel awkward talking about it. But at the same time, they know there are changes, and they don't always like how the changes are playing out, whether it be their boobs are getting bigger, or they don't know why their boobs aren't getting bigger, or their face is changing, or they're just anything, really. They're tall for their age, they're short for their age, they're skinny for their age, they're heavier for their age, or not necessarily their age. It's more like, because age really doesn't always play a factor, but what I mean is maybe they're comparing themselves to how other girls look at their age. That's what I mean. Um, and it may come to you as a surprise that this happens younger and younger, especially as they see girls dancing on TikTok or on social media or posing for pictures. And this doesn't mean they're in a bikini or anything, but I've mentioned this before on the podcast. But what I've noticed with a lot of the young ladies that I follow, who I know personally, is that they do a lot of kind of modeling pictures, and they're in regular clothes, but they're trying to create this aesthetic, and it's like a perfect highlight reel. And there's a lot of danger in that they think they have to look that way all the time, or they have to be perceived that way, or they feel insecure unless they get a certain amount of likes, and like that's another validation. I think, it's another acceptance in their world. And in an ideal world, we would just take all social media away and we would just never, you'd think, oh, that problem's solved. But unfortunately, it can come up in other ways. Then it happens in real life. Then it happens when they watch a TV show. Then it happens, like there are always ways that this can come up. And I do believe that you can help protect them as much as possible from those things. So not allowing them to, if you notice it's having a negative effect on their mental health or their self-esteem, really muting and blocking the accounts that are making them feel that way, or limiting their access to it, and all that. And obviously it's all a personal decision with you as a parent or caregiver. But I think about like the mom who reached out to me last night. She's like, my daughter says she's ugly. She just says, I'm so ugly. And she's like, I tell her that she's beautiful because she is beautiful and she is a beautiful girl. But I remember thinking that about myself. Like, I'm ugly. I'm ugly. I'm not as pretty as the other girls, or I hate this about my body, or whatever. And my mom would always tell me, like, honey, you're beautiful. And I never believed her. And the thing that I hear the most from girls, and I know I felt this as a girl, and I'm sure maybe you did too, if you ever experienced this at all, is that you think that your parent has to say that. Like, what I hear from a lot of girls is that the reason that they take other people's opinions more seriously is because, and it means more, like if someone tells them they're beautiful, who's like a stranger or somebody at school or something like that, is because they feel like they have no bias and they know that you love them unconditionally. And so they're less likely to believe you, which I know sounds so crazy, because we want our girls to believe us. And that doesn't mean I think we should stop saying it, but it's just like a belief that they tend to have, especially in middle school and high school. And so it's good to talk about these things, because I want to equip you with as many tools as I can to help bring those conversations up, or make you aware and noticing if she is acting a little differently about her body, or she's starting to show more of her body or cover up more of her body, or she's asking about the way she looks or things like that. And again, it's what is on the inside that counts. And that's what really makes you beautiful. And confidence is beauty and all of those things. And we all know that. But the truth of the matter is, it still matters to them how they're perceived, and if they truly love themselves and think that they are beautiful in their own way. And so the problem with this is there's a lot of cultural pressure. So when I was growing up, it was TV shows, magazines, things like that. And girls don't really read a lot of magazines anymore that I know of. Like all the girls that I know, it's more just social media and online content. It's YouTube, it's, all of the other ways that they can get their information and the way that they perceive the world. And it is those, unrealistic expectations that can be so dangerous, because it's all about the filter, and it's talking to them about filters and how, yes, it can make your skin look smooth and beautiful, but it's not reality. And there's that comparison trap. This is another thing. Like, this is what I really struggled with, is not only just in magazines, which would be equated to social media today, but in school, I would compare myself to how I looked to other girls or compared to other girls, or I would see how boys treated certain girls differently than they treated me. And it also was family members, cousins who I thought were beautiful or had a perfect life. And it's really an easy trap to get into, is comparing yourself to others. And it might be you go to a football game, or they go to a football game, or they go to a dance class, and they're looking at someone else who they think is really beautiful. Or maybe it's a woman that they think is really beautiful, and they are like, I'll never look like her. So that is another problem in perception. And I think it is a problem for more girls than what we realize. And so it's about having these intentional conversations with the girls in your life to help prevent that and give them tools to break that cycle and fight it off. And it's reinforced beliefs. A problem is that once girls start internalizing that they aren't good enough, they aren't pretty enough, all of these things, it becomes that narrative in their mind of that inner doubt of like, oh, I'm not measuring up. And so whenever the time comes for them to start dating, it's like that person, if they pay attention to them, it might not be the best situation. I know for me anyway, I have ended up in many toxic relationships, many unhealthy relationships, because I was looking for validation that I was pretty, that I was smart, that I was good enough. And even though I was told that at home, and I felt secure in my small friend group, I still had that internal chaos that I always struggled with, that I was trying to get under control. And it wasn't until later in life that I actually learned the tools, like in my later 30s, even. And that's my whole intention, is like, I want to help teach you and help the girls by forming positive communities and Girls Positivity Club, by helping them through this while they're growing up, so they don't have to end up in those situations and go down those dark places like I did. Um, and it could even affect their confidence in other areas. It could affect their friendships, especially if they're jealous of the way that another girl looks in their friendship group, or if they feel like that they're the ugly one in the friend group, or they don't feel like that they're as smart as, then it starts to be like, well, if I'm not good enough in this way, then maybe I'm not smart, maybe I'm not this or that, maybe it starts affecting their extracurriculars. So I'm not saying this to, freak you out or anything, but those are kind of the paths that they can go down if this becomes part of who they are, and they internalize it and they start believing it. So we want to help them break the cycle. That's what this is all about. And I want you to know that you can make a difference, even if you are the parent and they say that to you, you're going to continue saying it to them. And also that it's not all about looks. And I know you already know this, but just saying it out loud is that what we want to focus on is their uniqueness and all of their good qualities. And that is what really makes them beautiful. And, if they want to do something to improve the way they look in their minds, it's okay, but we don't want them to be obsessed about it. Like, I would be lying if I said I didn't, do my hair or put makeup on or do things like that, because it makes me feel more confident, not because I'm insecure about the way that I look. But I'm also showing up on this podcast that is a video recording where I have very little makeup on, my hair in a ponytail, whatever. And so it's taken a long time to be able to say, okay, I'm myself in both ways, whether I'm all made up or not. And I want to show up in both ways for you, because this is about being real, and it's about talking about real things that affect our girls. So what can you do? The first thing is the mirror. The mirror is a very powerful tool. So you can look at it as an enemy and you could cover it up, or, tell your daughter to face away from the mirror and avoid it. And there are times when that might be the case, when if she just can't stop doing the things, just having her not focus as much as in looking in the mirror. But that's not the answer. We've got to face ourselves and accept ourselves for who we are. And that means our imperfections too. I could sit here right now and tell you all the things that I don't like about the way that I look. But that's not helping me in any way. It's not helping me feel good about who I am. And everybody has those things. So in the mirror, what we want to do is we want to think of it as a reflection of who they are. And we want to teach her to focus on the good. So if she looks for her flaws, she's going to see it. So it's just like in life. If you look for the way the world is horrible, and it doesn't mean, again, I'm just going to always say this, doesn't mean, again, I say that we ignore all things that are negative, but it's not about dwelling. We don't want to dwell on them, or we don't want to teach her to dwell on her flaws. We want to focus on helping her see the good in herself, even if she's not loving the way she looks in the moment. If she looks for whatever is beautiful about her, and it could be she has kind eyes. This is something that, I was just in a room with a lot of beautiful women, and it could set me back a little, and I could look at them and be like, oh my gosh, they're all so beautiful. I've never really thought of myself as beautiful in an outward way. And I know that may be surprising to maybe some people, but I've really had to train myself that my beauty is from the inside, and that, yes, I try and take care of myself and look the best that I can, but I try not to focus on that actual physical beauty part. Um, at the same time, I want to look my best, and I do want to feel beautiful. So there's that fine line of, as a woman, as a girl, kind of finding that comfort in both, and knowing that it's okay if, it takes time and effort to do that. This has taken me years of practice, and I still have to remind myself of those things when I look in the mirror. So in the mirror, it's, teaching her. And I said this on my last podcast too, doing this with her. I think it would be so powerful if you would stand in front of the mirror with her and do this activity where every night before bed, or every morning, depending on how busy your schedule is, if you would look in the mirror and say something positive about yourself, and it could be physical, or it could be, like in this room of women, we had to go around and say one positive word that really stood out about that woman based on us getting to know each other. And I said, to, just different things like brave and strong and all that. And one thing that people said to me is that I had kind eyes. And that was such a huge compliment, because I was like, oh, wow, I help people feel safe with my eyes. So even if that's your daughter, where you're like, you have kind eyes, or you have such a creative soul, or you are, you have strong arms, like look at how strong your arms are, or you have strong legs. If you want to focus on body parts, and then you can also focus on, things that are unique about her, like her freckles, or her, maybe she has a little dimple, or maybe her hair is beautiful, or something like that. And it's also balancing that with those internal things that are like, you have the biggest heart. You are so caring to animals, or your younger siblings, or whatever it would be. Just pointing out those things, like, look at your hands. Those hands are so creative. You are an incredible keyboard player, or guitar player, or artist, or, look at your mouth. You sing beautifully, and out of your mouth comes this beautiful sound, or, what you say, you're so this or that. So it's kind of balancing that, the outside with the inside. So doing that, and it doesn't have to take forever. I'm not saying you have to stand in front of the mirror for 20 minutes, but maybe you pick, like, every night we're going to start with one thing. We're going to say, look at ourselves in the mirror, and we're going to say one thing positive about ourselves and what we see in ourselves before we go to bed. And then maybe you work it up to two things, and maybe do three things, whatever you're comfortable with. But I think you can underestimate the power of doing that mirror work, and it will really help you as well. Show her as a role model, especially if you're a woman, that this is what you do. This work is continued work, and it's also okay not to feel beautiful at every moment, and saying, like, whatever that would be for you, but then partnering it with something positive about you and herself. And then you could take turns even saying that to each other. Like, she could find something in you, and you could find something in her. So I think it'd be a really incredible bonding moment to do. And so I hope you try it. The second one is the highlight reel. So reminding her that the best moments are shared as a highlight reel. So social media or movie trailers, they're going to show the best of a movie. They're not going to show you horrible, boring parts. They're going to show you all the highlights of the movie to get you to want to watch it. So it's like that on social media. If you have a girl who is old enough to be on social media, or you've allowed that, then it's showing her that, they're not showing you every part of their life. And everybody struggles with something. You don't know what that is for each person. And it doesn't mean you always have to broadcast it all, but just keeping in mind that perfect person who has the perfect feed, or the person who looks like they have the perfect life. You do not have any idea what they're going through on the inside or in the real world. So I just met a woman who is incredible, and we spent a couple days together at a business mastermind in Arizona, I mentioned in the last episode. And she is skinny, like she's super skinny. She has a great body, and I mean that in the best way possible. And she revealed that, because I thought to myself, like, wow, she's so beautiful. We were sitting by the pool, so we were, in bathing suits, and not that I was comparing, I was just like admiring, like, wow, she's so beautiful, because I've worked really hard on that. And she said, yeah, I don't work out at all. Like, I don't have to do anything. I just kind of watch what I eat, but I don't have to really even monitor that. Like, I'm just blessed with a naturally thin body. And so she even had abs, and she doesn't do one sit up. So it's just a good reminder. And I think this would be another good example that some people just have a very natural, thin physique that gets muscles easily. I mean, I'm sure she's the rarity, but she's like, I'm so thankful that that is a part of my life I don't need to worry about, because she has a lot of other things that are challenges for her, and she shared those, and I'll keep that private. But it's like, wow, looking at her on the outside, she's beautiful and she looks perfect, but the things that she shared is like, she doesn't have a perfect life. And that's what we're all there to do, is connect as women about how we can support each other better, and how we can help her show up in her best self. And we really want that for our girls. So reminding them of that highlight reel is really important. And then I love this one too. Number 3 is, so number 1 was the mirror talk. Number 2 is the highlight reel, just reminding her of that and helping her reframe it as she's comparing herself maybe to someone else, or thinking she may not be beautiful. Number 3 is the inner best friend. So I say this to the girls all the time: talk to yourself like you would a best friend. When you're tearing yourself down, or picking apart something about your body, or how you look, or what you've done, or the mistakes you've made, think to yourself, if it were my best friend. And whether or not she has a best friend is irrelevant. I mean, if she did have a best friend, if she's, working on getting a close friend, or however you want to view that, what would you say to that person if they didn't feel, fill in the blank, didn't feel enough, didn't feel beautiful, they felt left out, whatever the thing would be? But since we're focusing on body image and appearance, since that is the topic, it could be like, what would you say to your best friend if she wasn't feeling beautiful, or if she wasn't feeling as good as other people? And not 9 times out of 10, they can tell you exactly what they'd say. And then you just reframe it and say, now say that to yourself. That's what you need to do. Your friend would never tear you down. And if they would, they're not true friends. But they're always going to walk into rooms where there are going to be girls or women as they get older who they view as beautiful, or have it all together, or look like they have a perfect life. And really, it's equipping them to be like, okay, I can feel good about myself no matter how I'm looking in this moment, no matter what, and know that how I am right now is enough, and I am beautiful in my own way, and so are they. And just because someone else you may feel like they're more beautiful, that doesn't make you any less than. And I think with girls especially, we need to teach them not to tear other girls down, or women down who are beautiful, or like, oh, she thinks she's perfect. You don't know that at all. And yes, there are some people who act that way, but it's like, you don't know what's going on in someone's life. And it's just having those intentional conversations and reminding her to be her own best friend, be your own cheerleader. And that's hard sometimes, but when you get in the habit of saying, like, what would you say to yourself if you were feeling, if this were your friend, what could you say to yourself to help yourself through this moment? And then, number 4 is think of what your body can do for you. So it's making a list or saying out loud, like, what is your body doing for you? So is it my strong legs help me run fast? Is it and I know this may sound corny to them or cheesy to them or cringy, as they say, but it's still good to do. Like, what is your body? What does it do for you? Well, my brain helps me think, and I am creative, and my heart helps me be kind. And yes, I know that your heart is an organ and all those things, but you can use it more as like a metaphor for, my hands are, my way of creating and expressing myself. My mouth is the way that I express myself and my ideas. So it's really thinking about that. What can my body do? Instead of focusing on what it can't do, or the ways that you're not measuring up or she's not measuring up. So it's again flipping that and thinking about what can my body do instead of focusing on how your body isn't, fill in the blank. And then the last one is positive propaganda, or positive people, positive places. You want as much as possible. The propaganda is like what she consumes, the shows she consumes, the social media she consumes, the people she's around, the places she is, the environments. All of those things matter. So it's equipping her to be in as many positive situations as possible that you can control. So I just talked with a girl about this last week, is like, control the controllables. So if the things that she's scrolling are not making her feel good about herself, it's using that mute button, it's taking a break from it, it's putting her in more real life situations where she's around people who are uplifting. It's having a mentor who can, like, I meet with girls individually, and I mentor them on these things. And a lot of times they'll share things with me that maybe they've shared with their parents, but they'll go more in depth because I'm a neutral person. I'm not their parent. I'm more of their mentor. And so it feels different. And so it's giving her as many of those things as possible and teaching her how to find them herself too. So it's whether she does listen to podcasts, or whether she listens to a certain kind of music, or whether she's involved in her church group, or her school after school clubs, or her extracurriculars, like whatever that would be. Are those people making me feel good? And if not, how can I get around people, places, see things that are going to help me feel that more than I don't? Because it is impossible to never be around anything negative. However, I believe that you can control a lot of that yourself. You can help your daughter find those places. And my whole intention with Girls Positivity Club is that we have those positive communities for girls. And so I hope this was helpful. These are 5 ways that you can really help your daughter, help rewrite that inner doubt about the way she looks. And, everyone is beautiful in their own way. And outwardly, maybe people do look different. They do. It is not a maybe, they really do. But it's teaching her to notice her own beauty and uniqueness, and not to be afraid of that, to step fully into who she is. And that's what makes her beautiful. And is what makes her unique. And that's what will attract other people who are positive and who are kind and who are good people for her to be around, instead of trying to be someone she's not, trying to dress a certain way, trying to look like everyone else so that she fits in. And I know it's not easy. And I'm so happy to help you in any way that I can. So if you want to hear more on this, please let me know. And the things that this is going to do when you implement them is she's going to have increased confidence. She's going to have better emotional regulation and resilience. She's going to be able to handle things when she has setbacks. And then she's also going to have a stronger sense of self-worth. And that's what we all want for our girls, is for them to feel good about who they are and love themselves, no matter what, no matter how. We're all imperfect. And that's what we really want to equip her with, is the tools. And we want to model that for her as well in our own lives. So I hope this was helpful. Please let me know if there's another topic you'd like me to talk about. And until next time, keep raising those confident girls, and send this to someone that it could help. And know that you too are beautiful, and your daughter is too. And we're all in this together. I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining another empowering episode of the Raising Confident Girls podcast. Share today's insights with caregivers and friends, building beautiful relationships with strong girls. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're not just a podcast, we're a community. Follow Girls Positivity Club on social media for more empowering content on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. This podcast empowers you, supporting incredible girls. Let's create strong, beautiful relationships with the girls in our lives. I appreciate you listening today. Stay confident, stay connected. Until next time, keep raising those confident girls. You've got this.